Hello, good evening, and welcome to One on One with Mr. Paul Eson Joshua, and who is also a prophet of God. Today, our topic is marriage for the called, and then he's going to literally bisect and talk about this topic into details. I know you don't want to miss out. I am Nana Manyako, and I am your host for today, and I am doing this with
Edmond Fuga.
and together we are going to ask Prof questions for him to tell us everything we need to know about this topic. Now we move on to you, Prof. Hello, sir. Good evening, and how are you?
Hello, Nanama, and hello, Edmond. Thank you very much. I'm doing fine, and hello to all your wonderful viewers.
Okay, Prof. Today our topic is marriage for the called. Now, Prof, when we look at the topic, we have marriage and we have called. First of all, I want you to explain marriage for us. What is marriage?
Okay, so marriage, as ordained by God, is a covenant between two people, male and female.
Okay.
And they agree to live together, to have children, to raise a family together, to live as a couple, and to be united in purpose.
Okay. So does it mean that if the two people don't agree and then they are forced to marry, it's not called marriage?
So yeah, it's more like they've made a covenant, but they have disagreements to the terms of the covenant. So it would eventually end up in disagreements. And Scripture says that if two are not agreed, they can't walk together.
Okay,
So it's a marriage, but it's an unhealthy marriage.
I see. So it means we have a healthy one and an unhealthy one.
Absolutely.
That's fine. Okay, Prof, could you talk about called? Which people are called?
Okay, so someone who is called is someone that has been invited by someone else. In this case, the called are those who have been invited by God.
Okay.
And all those who are invited by God are invited for a reason of a relationship. Means God wants to be acknowledged as the supreme one in their lives,
Okay.
their source. And then they also acknowledge God that way. And then God also sees them as his children, his beloved ones. That relationship is basically what makes you a believer. And once you're a believer, you are the called, the chosen.
Okay, so Mr. Joshua, you are telling us that if an individual does not have a relationship with God, the person isn't called.
Well, you asked a very interesting question.
Yeah.
So the call of God actually precedes the knowledge of the person that brings them into a relationship with God.
Okay.
It's easier to talk to those who have the relationship because they already know. For those who don't have the relationship, we have to basically, I would say, preach the gospel about the fact that if you have the evidence that your life is in need of salvation, that you have struggles, you have problems, then that is a sign of a call of God.
Okay.
So the called is both at a time when you didn't know and at a time when you become aware. So that's what they call predestination, because God has already planned out that at every point in time, every human being will have a moment where they begin to ask questions about their purpose, their identity. They start to question, why was I created? Why am I here? Why do I have these desires and all that? Those questions are the sign of the called.
Okay. So, Prof, now I want you to combine the two. Marriage for the called. Okay, you've already explained the marriage, you've talked about called. Now I want you to join the two. When we say there is a marriage for the called, or called, people who are called are supposed to have a certain kind of marriage. What do we mean by that?
Great question. So that there is marriage for the called supposes that if you don't even yet have a relationship with God, you have to be aware that God has an interest in the key event in everybody's life of marriage. And so if God has an interest, then it is on us to discover what that interest is. It means he already has made certain plans for us, and so we should become interested to know, because other than that, if you're going on a journey, you need to have a plan on the journey. And if you don't have a plan, you may have a lot of troubles that the plan could have helped you to avoid. Marriage for the called also is speaking about the fact that you have people who are believers, and God has an idea and a vision of how the marriage of believers is supposed to be. If somebody doesn't subscribe to having one God, for example, the person might be more open to the idea of polygamy.
Okay.
Because the picture of marriage between a man and a woman is one man, one woman. And so if a person doesn't subscribe to the idea of the faith, of the Christian faith, then you can't even have a conversation about the things God wants to address, about his vision for marriage. So marriage for the called narrows it down to God's vision for marriage.
Okay. So I wouldn't like to cut you short, but you just spoke about polygamy. And we should know that polygamy in other religions do believe in polygamy. So are you trying to tell us that marriage for the called is only limited to Christians? Because if I'm a Muslim, I can believe in polygamy. It could be that my dad married 2, my dad married 3. The religion talks about, or the religion could support the fact that you could marry 2 women.
That's right.
So will you try to tell me that marriage for the called, I can fall under that category? No,
that's not what I'm saying. Actually, to your point, you can have a Muslim believe that he only wants to marry a man. A Muslim, of course, a Muslim woman, that she only wants to be married to one man. And you can also have a Muslim man who believes that he only wants to have one wife. So it's a matter of faith, not religion.
Sure.
It's a matter of faith. So the question you are asking does not alienate Muslims from coming. But the point is faith in one God. If the Muslim believes in one God, not multiple gods. So the point is then, if you believe that there is one God, then there is a vision that one God has for marriage. And there is also a picture that polygamy paints, which may not communicate that vision of God.
Okay. Prof, I want to ask a question. You just answered Edmund's question, but then you've raised another question in my head. What I want to ask is, so assuming somebody finds him or herself in a polygamous marriage, does that mean that particular marriage isn't a marriage for the called? Let's put religion aside.
Yeah, because first question is, when you were going to get married, were you having the intention of being in a polygamous marriage?
Okay.
You had a calling in you driving you to get married to the person.
Yeah.
You felt this is a person for me. I like this about this person will balance me in this area. Maybe I make a lot of money, but I'm frivolous, I'm not a good manager, this person. Or you're even in a relationship now, right? And you feel this person is Muslim, but I'm Christian, but I like this person and all. Now, marriage for the called, and the question you're asking about the polygamy,
yes,
is simply addressing, first assess, because you see, the concept of God, people have different interpretations.
Yeah.
But the easiest way to help people to understand how accurate or flawed their interpretation is to ask them how they see their fellow human being. So if you're a young lady, you're dating a man, and you can confidently say you're comfortable with a man after marrying you, after that deep, passionate love you feel for him, that he will take that same deep, passionate love and share it with 3 other ladies, and you'll be okay. Then that's a journey that will end you in a vision of marriage that is not the vision God has. Because God is jealous.
All right.
And he will not have any other God beside him.
Yes.
When he created marriage, he created one man, Adam, and one woman, Eve. He didn't create 2 women to marry the one man. He didn't create 2 men to marry one woman.
Okay.
That's the idea.
I see. Prof, I want to make my question a very closed question.
Okay.
So you answer yes or no.
All right.
So is polygamous marriage a marriage for the called?
Is polygamous marriage a
yes.
marriage for the called?
Called, yes.
No.
Okay, I see. Now let's move on. Okay, Prof. When you were talking, you made mention of the fact you talked about young women.
Yeah.
Now, can you please give us a little gist about the process a young woman should go through before getting married? Sorry.
Well, she first has to begin to discover herself that she has feelings for a man.
Okay.
I'm saying that because there are some who are struggling with that.
All right. But then how does this young lady discover that?
I mean, when you are there, you are there. This doesn't need any explanation. When you are there, it's a feeling. You begin to feel attracted towards somebody, maybe a young guy you're in class with, or around your neighborhood, or in church with, or wherever, in a mosque with, or something. Okay, you begin to feel an attraction towards this person, and it's hormonal. So once you get there, you will know. No matter how well it's explained, if you are not there, you won't get it. And so that's why this conference is first for those who are of age, because it's 18 upwards.
Okay.
Once you are 18, by all means, you've gone through your puberty and you've discovered your body a bit. If you're a girl, your breasts have formed and you have gone through your cycles. If you're a guy, you've had your wet dreams and all that. And so you are basically at that point where you know what it means to say attraction. So if we're talking about sex, you're not going to be confused. Okay. However, what I'm trying to say is there are those who have gotten to that age but are still struggling with that. And you're asked, where does the journey begin?
Yes.
The journey begins for some, like I said, normally, by the time you hit your puberty and you start to have those feelings and all that, that's the normal journey that's supposed to be. But there are people, their children are exposed to it way earlier.
Okay.
Okay, and then there are those two who have become adults, but they are still struggling with their identity. So in a conference, we have a topic that actually talks about identity crisis. Because once you have that problem, if that problem is not addressed, you can't even consider getting married. Because the feelings you have are strange. Right, so yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question.
So, you just took us to a science class. You know, that's the adolescent stage. So here lies the case. A lady 16 years, maybe 13 to 16, she begins to have feelings. Are you trying to say the lady is fit to marry? Because in some cases, we have homes whereby the lady is not yet grown to that age, but she has already been given out for marriage.
Right.
So how could you relate that? Because what you just said, someone could hear that and be encouraged that, oh, after all, right now, I've started having feelings for maybe this guy or this man, so why not? If it comes that, let me marry you. She could agree.
Right.
What you just said.
Yeah, you're making
my view.
Right, you're making a very good point. The thing too about marriage is that because it's an agreement between two people, if that 16-year-old girl, as far as the ability for her to function as a woman, to even a grown man, is intact, and if that 16-year-old girl agrees that she wants to be married to that man, and if her parents consent, it's a marriage.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how the society will see it.
You know we are in Ghana.
Yes.
And let's stand on that 16-year-old girl.
Okay.
So if the 16-year-old girl comes to her parents, or maybe mommy, daddy, I've seen this man, he says he wants to marry me. And the 16-year-old girl also likes the man. And fine, they marry. What would the society talk about? Because you should know that Ghana, 18 years, it's the age that we stand on, or we base on that you're an adult. Yeah.
But you see, the other thing about life is that when a person has feelings and convictions and you start setting rules, it may be unlikely to cause them to stop. Because rules just reveal what is inside of a person. They don't change anybody. So the only way you approach a 16-year-old who is telling you, I have met this person, I want to get married, is to enlighten her that, okay, marriage is good. So in other words, you don't begin by discouraging the concept that is forming in her mind that she wants to get married. Because if you discourage her and you do it the wrong way, she may also be scarred And for a long time, she doesn't even want to get married. And she won't realize that it's because you put her through a very terrible experience when she was at that age.
Okay.
And she was developing those feelings. So it begins by, setting the journey for her that, okay, yes, there's nothing wrong with feeling like you want to get married. But do you understand that this is what marriage is like? This is what marriage is like. Do you see the marriage between your mom and I? Or maybe there wasn't even a marriage. Do you know the problems that I went through with your mom? Do you know the problem I went through with your dad? Then you begin to share that and all. Then prepare that 16-year-old. And that's what marriage for the called is also about. That it's about the preparation. So that's what it's keenly about. Addressing the challenges and issues that young people are facing. Both the traditional type of challenges and our trending challenges of today that young people are facing.
Yes, you are right. But you should know, not that all hands aren't equal. Your home ain't my home. Some homes are there, the parents, due to their literate background, they could sit the child down, try to counsel the child, oh, this and that. So what if the home, there's no violence, there's peace reigning in the parents' marriage? How do you think the parents should go about that? Here lies the case whereby you are trying to state that maybe the parents making reference to the lady that the lady should look up to or look back at what's happening between maybe the mom and the dad. What if the home, there's peace of mind in the home, there's nothing ongoing between the parents, that
Right.
maybe there's no struggle.
Okay.
But they don't have any knowledge to that extent that they should sit and counsel the child. What do you think they should do?
Well, they'll need education. If you don't know something, you can get knowledge. Secondly, if the parents don't know, but the child, maybe the young one is listening, they can help. It can help them to understand their parent. And so the conference like this, which is meant for young people, youth, young ministers, will then help you as a young person to understand your journey. Maybe you may feel that your parents are not able to help you with this journey you are on. A conference like this will help you, because that's why we're doing the conference for young people.
Okay, Prof, you've really talked a lot. Now let's assume that the young woman has gone through preparation and has now entered marriage, into the marriage. He has gone to the marriage, right? So what is the purpose of this marriage? And then how does this young woman safeguard these purposes?
That's an incredible question. The purpose of marriage, firstly, has to be established by the one who made it.
Okay.
So, foundationally, you have to know, okay, this is God's purpose for creating marriage. Then we as individuals, we also have our own personal ideas as to why we want to get married. For someone, they cried out to God for a man that would take care of them, right? Maybe they were going through a lot of things that were making them compromise themselves as a young lady.
Yeah.
And so she just asked God, I want a man who's going to take care of me.
Okay.
So she's defining that I want a marriage that serves the purpose of providing for my needs, right? And so the question about purpose for marriage is answered in two ways. The superior revelation of God's purpose for marriage and our human purpose for marriage, and making sure that our human purpose doesn't circumvent or contradict what God has planned for us to achieve. That becomes a marriage for the called, a marriage that God has envisioned, a marriage that God can entrust with certain amazing destinies of little children. You know, if you look in the Bible, you see an amazing destiny like Jesus.
Yeah.
Like Mary had no clue she was going to be carrying the Savior of the whole world, and yet she was chosen because the marriage she was in, God also chose the kind of man she was married to. And this man had to have understanding that he's going to have to take care of a woman who's carrying a child that he didn't put into her. That would take a different kind of man. That means the kind of man she had to marry was critical. So in God's purpose for their marriage, he had to choose this for that and that for that. And then the purpose of the Savior of the world coming into this world could be fulfilled. Other than that, Joseph would have divorced her, made noise all around the town that she's a prostitute, she slept with somebody and all that. Can you imagine what that would have meant for our salvation?
Yeah.
Probably not a nice idea
Yes, at all.
and vision.
Okay, so now you've hinted on the purpose of marriage and how we should safeguard it by not letting our own intentions circumvent God's intention for
Yes,
our marriages.
yes.
That's fine. Now, you see, sometimes, most of the times, not even sometimes, as young women, when we enter marriage, we tend to find a lot of crises, a lot of problems. Now, how do we go to the cause? How do we identify the particular causes of these crises and fight them?
Do you know that maybe 70 to 80% of the answer to your question lies in your knowledge of God's intention for creating marriage? Because if you don't have the right idea about marriage and you're going through crisis, then you either misinterpret why you're going through crisis, or you will not have the right tools to even deal with the crisis, if we can agree to that. So basically, getting the right knowledge, like what is marriage like for those who are called, for believers, or for young ministers, those who have gone. You know, when we say ministers, it just simply means a called one who has advanced beyond just having received salvation. You are now actually using that salvation to serve God, to do something meaningful in this world, right? Yeah, so crisis, how to identify the source, the problem. You need to actually get a knowledge of what is it supposed to look like. Then you can compare with your crisis and know, oh, okay, so that I got this wrong in this area, I got that wrong. Let me give an example. There was a young lady I was counseling whose marriage was on the rocks, and she didn't tell me. But I hadn't spoken to her for probably like 5 years or something like that. And then I saw her face in a vision, and God told me her marriage is on the rocks. I got in touch with her, and she acted like she didn't know what I was saying. So I felt silly. So I left it at that. A few days later, she calls back and says, what you said is true. Like, my marriage is going through a lot of stuff. Her marriage was going through a crisis. But she didn't know how to approach. Somebody just calls me out of the blues. I've not told him anything about my marriage. What should I do? But then she began to trust God, because she knew there was absolutely no way I could have known if God didn't show it to me. And as she gave herself to prayer, God began to help her in the marriage. But there was a fundamental problem, crisis that she went through, which had to do with decisions she made in getting married. She took a loan to sponsor part of the wedding, and the man was not aware of it.
Oh, okay.
Now, in her being exposed to marriage for the called, she got to know that transparency is key. You have to talk about finances, and you notice in the topics, we talk about faith, finances, and all that. You have to be able to talk to your partner about finances. Because she hid that thing, her man was so hurt, he had to work extra hard to pay off that loan, and he couldn't get over that hurt. So the marriage failed. This is an example of foundation. So if you don't have the right picture of what marriage should be like, by all means, you will do what you think you should do, and it's going to bring you into a crisis. But if you're in a crisis, you still get the same knowledge to fix the crisis. It's the same knowledge.
So, could we say the crisis could be spiritual and physical? Because from what you just said, your lady friend's instance, that is physical.
Yeah.
So there was lack of communication in there.
Yes.
Because if she had communicated earlier on,
Yes.
maybe the man could have known what to do.
That's right.
So let's put the physical part away. We all know that spirits do work.
That's right.
Here lies the case: the lady and the man knows their whereabouts, or they know their way in and out of marriage. They enter by still not working. Would you say that is a spiritual crisis?
So I like your question, because when it comes to helping people with their marital problems, you can't use assumption, and because even if you are a counselor and you have people sitting in front of you and tell you, they will just be blaming each other and all that. If you don't get God to help you to know what the actual source of the problem is, you will just be speculating. And one thing is that you don't want to say the problem is spiritual when it's not spiritual, because then you create also different kinds of problems with that. And then you don't also want to think the problem is just natural when the problem is purely spiritual. So, if the problem is purely spiritual, then God has to reveal it. Because we're living in a human body. And so, how does God reveal it? You ask God, you pray. And God will reveal that this is the problem spiritually. And once there's a problem spiritually, you're able to deal with it spiritually. But let me just say this to balance it. Anywhere you see a spiritual problem, There is a physical problem that created a spiritual problem. Because Hebrews, the book of Hebrews in the Bible tells us very clearly that all things that were made by the invisible. So anytime you see something physically happening, there is always by nature a spiritual component to it. The issue is people always want to fix one side and leave the other side. But you have to bridge it. That's when it works. So you can't just focus on, I'm going to pray to solve the problem, and not also do the things God tells you while you are praying and expect to see the results. So this is very key.
Let's still stand there. Then I would want to say marriage the church will have to play a role in marriage. Here lies the case, the lady is from a different church or a different denomination. The guy too is from a different, everyone and they believe. Because it's not every church that preach the same gospel. There are multiple gospels. So how do you go about that too?
So that's why a conference like ours will neutralize all of that. Because this is coming straight out of the Word of God. So it's not about human denominations and schisms and separations that I think this is what it is. It's clearly written in the Bible text. And then God has also sent us as prophets in this dispensation to announce these are revelations of God. And you see, revelations are important because when you tell somebody this is what is written in the Bible, they can tell you, well, I know my life is different. But when you now come with revelation and say, this is what is going on in your life, the person can't help but acknowledge that God is the one talking to them directly. And so they'll open up their hearts to relate with you. So the point you are raising is so essential because different churches are painting different pictures about marriage. There is a picture that is being painted now that it is okay for a young person to use marriage as a means to get a green card. And even if it's a second marriage, it's their destiny. I've heard this from the mouth of a pastor before. And this is going to corrupt a generation. Meanwhile, that's not a vision God has for marriage, because that first wife, you're going to put her into hurt, pain, bitterness. And she may never recover from that bitterness, right? And is this how we're supposed to love each other? Certainly not. No. So I'll say that the balancing part of this question is a conference like this, which has been established to bring everybody together. And in the conference, we'll give room for you to also share your ideas. It's not going to just be keynote presentations where we tell you, this is what God has established as marriage. These are the revelations of God. But we'll also listen to what you as a young person have to say, so that maybe there are challenges you are going through. God will give us the wisdom to help you out of it.
Okay, Prof, that was very fine. Now, viewers, if you listen really well to Prof, whenever he was talking, he made mention of conference. Now, did you know that the topic itself, marriage for the called, is a conference that is coming up? Now, I want to, Prof, please say something small about the conference, where it is happening, its aim, the people you are expecting, all that. Tell us.
Thank you very much. Marriage for the Called Conference is coming up on the 16th of December. It's a Monday from the 16th of December to the 18th of December. We'll be organizing it in morning sessions and evening sessions. The morning session, we're going to start at 8:30 a.m. and we're going to continue all the way through to the afternoon. Then we take a break, come back and resume at 6:30 in the evening and continue till like 9 p.m. Basically, the conference has been organized to address challenges, issues that young people are having, young people who are in relationships, or young couples who are married and are having challenges in their marriages. And we are opening it up to people from ages of 18 all the way to like 45, 48 even. And so far as you are hungry to hear what God has to say about marriage, this is the conference for you. In the conference, there are going to be keynote presentations. The keynote presentations basically are going to give presentations on topics that have to do with marriage for the called. Topics that will include who are the called. Is going to go into addressing the issue of the call of God. Because if God has marriage planned for those who are called, then those who are called really need to know who they are so that they can walk in their destiny That way, if they get married to the ones that God has destined for them, and their marriage can work out accordingly. And we have other topics like sex, how sex should be in marriage, and holiness, how do you balance sex and holiness, and then identity crisis in young women, and identity crisis in young men, finances, faith. We're going to cover a lot of things. And so those keynote presentations will basically be myself delivering the mind of God on the matter. And then we're going to have also interactive sessions that are driven by participants, question and answer sessions. We're going to have small workshops in between where we allow other facilitators to ask questions, and it's very open. And this will go on. There'll be some worship mixed in there, very strong worship. It may be short, but very intense, strong, and with prayer. And we do this for 3 days, like I said. In the evenings, there's going to be a different mode of the conference. It will be like a fireside chat, like the way me and Edmund and Nanama are doing right now. We just have a chit chat, and it's going to be very down to earth, where they can ask personal questions as well. And then we go on till the third day. So on the third day, which is Wednesday, God asked me that we should pray for marriages, because marriages are obviously very important to God. It's the birthplace for destiny. It's where we all came out from. We were born before we said yeah, and then so God is very concerned about that, because there are also attacks, like Edmond suggested, the spiritual side. There are attacks that are coming against marriages. I'm going to share revelations about those attacks, specifically where they are coming from, and areas that people who want to get married or in relationships, or people who are already married, should be very watchful about, and keys to be able to resolve those issues. The conference is totally free. We're not going to charge you any money for it. Actually, we have free materials for you when you come, and we are also encouraging those who are outside Winneba to plan the conference like a getaway, a personal getaway. If you're a young couple, you can come to Winneba. Winneba is a wonderful town, very developed. If you've not come here before, you will love it. And we've done some plans for accommodation for you, affordable. So we have a website for that. I'll get to that. So we have a website for that where you can register. You can register on mftconline.com. If you go there, all the information about the conference is there, the schedules, the sessions, and also you can download a detailed guide where you have very detailed subtopics as to what we're going to be discussing. And so you know how to plan your holiday. If you want to take a leave from work, if you are a worker, you can do so. And just, treat yourself to a retreat, a spiritual retreat. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to happen at Amu Theatre, Central Campus, University of Education, Winneba. And like I said, it starts on Monday, the 16th of December to the 18th, Wednesday. However, those who are coming from outside of Winneba, we would be able to receive you even on Sunday. So you can arrive on Sunday evening. We can receive you, help you with accommodation. There will be numbers that you find on the website, but you can also call 053-409-3121, and we'll help you with planning everything. You may also have personal problems. This is a conference for you. Personal problems, I mean, that have to do with your relationship, with your marriage, and also with your calling. If you're a young minister, you feel the calling of God, you're already working for God, but when it comes to the issue of your marriage, it's a big challenge. This is the place for you, because the marriage of those who are leaders is very unique. They are subjected to more pain, more trials, just to build them up. And so the kind of word that people who are leaders need is more strong. It's stronger. And so you need the truth. And we're going to have sessions that just get right down to it, straight talk on difficult issues like sex, like anal sex, things like that. Like, we're going to really go deep in there. So we invite you to join us for the conference, and your life will never be the same.
Okay, that was that. Prof has already talked about everything concerning the conference. Why wouldn't you come? I mean, you're coming to learn about sex. I know sex is something that is affecting us as young ladies, and then young men out there. Even if you are married, like old people, Some people are married for so many years and they are still having problems and challenges in their marriages. Please, we are inviting you. Do well to come and learn. And let your marriage be a glory unto God. So that is that, and this is where we are ending today's session. See you next time.